The Hills Have Eyes.
Now here's a horror film series worth talking about. Imagine being stranded far away from civilization while being stalked by people who are out for your blood. That sounds horrifying, doesn't it? And here we have 4 films and a graphic novel that explore just that. If you don't want anything spoiled for you, I'll summarize everything before I continue the video. This is a classic and has the hallmarks of an effective low-budget horror. It's gritty, atmospheric, tense, and worth your time. This is a cynical cash-in that feels like a Friday the 13th knockoff and not in a fun way. This is a solid remake that follows the spirit of the original while also adding enough new material to make it a distinctive experience. This one is forgettable, and despite being released in cinemas, it feels like a straight-to-DVD sequel. This is a comic that acts as a prequel and sequel to the remake, with the art and writing conveying the dark and tragic kind of story you'd expect. If you like any installment of The Hills Have Eyes, you might as well read this as well. Now, let's dive into this pile of meat and bones that is the Hills Have Eyes series. Since this is 1977, the film starts with what looks like the aftermath of the Technical Ecstasy tour. The Beverly Hillbillies have a tiff and a family headed to California stop by. But first they want to take a detour to an old silver mine. The petrol station owner advises them not to, saying the silver has been gone for 40 years. And you can take it from a guy who looks like an old-timey prospector. He looks like his dialogue might as well be, one of them notices the Native American from the Village People creeping around. Grandpappy gets car bombed. I didn't know the Hills of Eyes was set in Northern Ireland. The road they're driving on seems like a testing site for the military, and a plane nearly flies close to the car. Are they in an American desert or Libya? To avoid recreating Watership Down, the dad swerves and crashes. Considering the safety standards of cars in the 1970s, it's a miracle they all survived that. The retired police officer goes into a non-advertiser friendly diatribe about the danger he faced as a cop, still not coming close to killing him as this journey.
25 years I'm a cop in the worst goddamn precinct in Cleveland. Shoot arrows at me and the hillbillies throw dogs off the roofs at me, and I'm even shot at on 2 separate occasions by my own men.
This gentleman would fit right in current year X and Instagram comments. Why let a near-death experience and a heat stroke staring you in the face get in the way of a family lunch?
This much fresh air is unhealthy.
That's good for you.
It makes me want to puke if you really want to know.
I don't know who told her that fresh air is bad for you, but as someone from Britain who has borderline reflective skin, just watching The Hills Have Eyes makes me feel like I'm getting sunburned.
Maybe there's some rattlesnakes prowling around.
You know what Freud would say about your obsession with rattlesnakes, Ma?
Son, you just made a joke to your own mother about her being crazy for dick. Is that normal? That would feel so awkward for me, I wouldn't even make eye contact with my mum again until after 3 sleeps. They reminisce about when one of their dogs killed a poodle and somehow wasn't put down for it, all while laughing and smiling like it was a wonderful occasion that someone else's beloved pet was killed. Are you sure these freaks aren't the bloodthirsty monsters of the story? Bobby ventures up the hills to find one of their dogs named Beauty who ran off, only to find it mutilated. Hey, judging by how hard they laughed at the poodle death story, Bobby could milk enough material from this for a whole stand-up comedy routine.
We're up shit creek without a paddle. You know, you never used language like that before you moved to New York City.
You didn't even cock an eyebrow at your husband using a racial slur earlier. Big Bob makes it back to the petrol station where Grandpappy tells him about how he had a monstrous, violent child who he left for dead in the desert.
He weighed 20 pounds and was hairy as a monkey. When he was 10 years old, he was big as I was.
So that's where El Duce of the Mentors came from. Bobby has made his way back to the camp and they tell him about an unsettling call they got.
One time we got something that sounded like an Epstein caller.
Whatever an Epstein caller means, it sounds like the most sinister thing that's happened so far. Big Bob gets chased down until he's exhausted in a scene that's pretty chilling, but because of all the film grain, you can imagine it's snow, and this is a remake of It's a Wonderful Life set in New Mexico. Merry Christmas, Area 51! Merry Christmas, nuclear weapon test site! Merry Christmas, Atari game landfill! Or you could see it as an Easter special, since Jupiter here stages his own unorthodox version of Jesus Christ Superstar. These two decide to go outside, and Bobby hesitates to tell them about the dangerous vagabond he encountered out there. And he decides to raise the mood by doing the editor's job for them by playing suspenseful music on the radio. That baby looks wise to some shit. Pluto slunks to the icebox and takes their food, though he leaves their Coca-Cola because even he knows that's poison. Mars finds the Carter's pet bird.
I thought I saw a pretty cat.
Ugh! Well, if you ever watched Looney Tunes and wanted to see Sylvester get twitty, you got your wish. In a way. Somehow. Not really. The Desert Dwellers break in, attack our protagonist, and kidnap their baby. They're named after planets/Roman gods like Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter. For a family of feral, illiterate cannibals, those are some pretty classy names. The survivors fail to get help from police because law enforcement mistakes their distress call for rejoicing that it's the 1st of May.
Mayday, 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 god damn it, mayday!
They think they've gotten in contact with Air Force Rescue, but it turns out they're the unwitting butt of a joke in the mutants' new prank call show.
Just stand on your heads with your thumbs up your ass.
Oh, Bobby.
It's not the worst a prank phone call has ever gone.
Now when you were doing...
He fucked your granddaughter!
I like this throwback here where a rabbit distracts Pluto, which gets him attacked by Beast, like how earlier the rabbit made Big Bog swerve not to hit it. It's like how nature and fate choose no sides. Sometimes it'll cause the downfall of the civilized and sometimes the savage. Ethel and Bobby lure Jupiter to their trailer they've got rigged to explode, but when that doesn't work they shoot him. Maybe they should have done that at first. Trailers aren't exactly cheap. But then we wouldn't have this. Leading to a final confrontation between Mars and Peter Sellers. And thus ends Wes Craven's horror classic. Now, on to the sequel, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. I know, but like the Carters, we're stranded and we're fighting our way out. It opens on a text scroll with an ominous narration. My good people, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is not. Bobby is discussing the events of the first film with a therapist, and don't let that concerned look fool you. Trauma like this doesn't come often. This shrink is raking it in from this catch. Our leading lady Cass lies in her chamber, unaware that she is a home intruder wearing a Bo Selecta mask.
Craig David!
It turns out to just be her boyfriend Roy, whose idea of romance is to break into her house, even though she's blind, so the mask and ladder are only there to fake out the audience. They go to a garage where they are part of a team of bikers. The nature of this friend group makes it clear we're not in grimy 70s territory, but cheesy 80s territory. We've got the hot chick's boyfriend, fingerless leather gloves guy, wisecracking friend, the wacky friend, the spare women, and Bobby is the mentally tortured one. There's also Ruby from the last time, only now she's reformed, goes by Rachel, got herself a great dentist, and has gone from sounding, looking, and acting like a performer on Hee Haw to being like anyone from the West Coast. It feels jarring when she and Bobby have flashbacks to the first The Hills Have Eyes because of the difference in tone between the original and the sequel. They stop by at a kennel to pick up Beast, and it is pretty cool to see the dog from the first film again. I know it's only the same character, not the same exact actor dog from the first film, but you know. On their way to a motorcycle race, they drive near the location of the first film, and they even know about the details of what happened. They then decide to take a shortcut through the same place the Carters got ambushed at. I wonder what's gonna happen. They find a welcome sign that's spelled like it should be from a The Hills Have Eyes porn parody. Did it really have to be written in white as well? Their bus gets a leak and loses its fuel, forcing them to stop. It's a good thing Bobby didn't come with them or he'd be getting a case of PTSD grade deja vu. They come across the mine shaft that was brought up in the first film, and this fool of a Tuck channels his inner Pippin.
Throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity.
They explore this abandoned building and Rachel gets jumped by Pluto, who it turns out survived from the last time they met, only now she overpowers him, kicks him about, and knocks him flying. Remember in the first The Hills Have Eyes, where the mutants were such a threat that even though the Carter family outnumbered them, were armed, and had 2 German shepherds, it still looked like their chances of survival were slim to the point where the cannibal patriarch survived an explosion? Well, this time a woman half his size can fend him off with kung fu moves. It might be because having to survive in the desert made him malnourished, but that didn't stop him in the first one. He performed like an Olympic athlete there. You could use your imagination and say that she learned self-defense since they last met, but just look at Pluto. He towers over Rachel and he's meant to be one of the worst things you could meet while trapped in the desert. This also raises the question that if what happened to the Carters became well known enough to become local folklore, why wasn't law enforcement eventually sent out to track down these remaining cannibal suckers? Is Pluto just that good at hiding he can outfox the state troopers? Are cannibal clans a protected class in New Mexico? Was Pluto just allowed to become an urban legend the law knew about, like Purple Aki? And as some of you might have heard, yes, the dog gets a flashback, marking probably the first and only occasion in a horror film where a dog gets its own flashback. The purpose of it being to explain that Pluto is still alive because Jupiter shot at Beast to stop him from killing Pluto. Is it just me or does everyone have terrible aim in The Hills Have Eyes? Rachel reveals to her friends that she used to be part of the cannibal family. They must be kicking themselves that they had a potential sideshow freak that they could have been profiting off the whole time. When they see that Pluto stole one of their motorbikes, they suit up to go Mad Max on him. You'd think this is where we get our first kill, but first we get a trap that just harmlessly knocks one of them off his bike, which just causes Pluto to laugh like the cheeky little scamp he is. This isn't The Hills Have Eyes, this is Home Alone. Look at him riding off like he's about to audition for the role of Eddie in a community theater Rocky Horror Show production. Where do you think he learned how to ride a motorbike? The Pluto I know and love could beat this guy to death with his bare hands, and now he's being chased around like it's the Benny Hill show. And then he loses a scrap with this guy who has Captain Kirk fight choreography. In the first The Hills Have Eyes, the Carters were in serious danger. By now we had already seen a dog get mutilated and the family's most capable marksman get chased down to exhaustion. The first kill happens over 40 minutes in, and I don't care. I know I keep comparing it to the first one, but that one made you feel sympathy for a racist cop about to get murdered. Bobby was flippant and cocky at first, but once he knew he was in danger, he sobered up and you could just look at his facial expressions to empathize with him. When Twat Out of Hell 1, 2, and 3 don't get back, the others decide to prank them by hiding, jumping out, and going boo. The tension's just building and building. This is actually the midpoint of the film. What had already happened by now in the first one? Two of them go back to the bus to have sex because we might as well go down the checklist of cliches. And immediately after, one of them goes to hit on one of his colleagues after she showers. When this philanderer gets caught by his girlfriend, he uses up what little is left of their fuel to chase her down. Nothing says patching up your relationship like nearly sending someone under the tires of a bus. Forgive me if I only feel relief when this douche gets dragged under a bus and killed. How do you murder someone when you're both underneath a bus? I'd imagine you wouldn't get much space to do the killing, it would be too cramped. A new cannibal named Reaper shows up and starts picking everyone off.
Reaper. Papa Choop's big brother's here.
Ever since Papa Choop died, Reaper took over.
Took over what? Most of you got wiped out. A WhatsApp group for a school project has more members than you. Rachel gets pushed onto a rock by Reaper and dies. That's it? You thought having her character return for the sequel would amount to anything? Your hopes were too high for The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Pluto corners one of the survivors atop a cliff, taunting him with the same insults he used against Beast both a few minutes ago and in the last film.
Dog breath! Flea basket!
Of all the people they've killed in the desert, at least one of them must have had a book Pluto could read to develop his vocabulary. Beast has had enough of Pluto's broken record insults and saves the day with his signature move he used against Mercury last time. Reaper tries to hunt down Cassie but gets blindsided by her, a woman who is actually blind. She makes her escape by climbing a rope like it's gym class. They try to lure Reaper into a trap and say, wait a second, this is no birthday cake.
The Reaper sucks!
Yeah, you tell him, Roy. They recycle the same trap of blowing up their mode of transportation to take out Reaper, only this time it just works. Well, okay, he sprints out at them on fire, but they just move aside and he falls down the well. And they all died of thirst in the desert. That's enough of that. Let's get back to the good stuff. I remember seeing the trailer for this as a kid, and I still remember the tagline, "The lucky ones die first." Taglines have become a forgotten art. The petrol station proprietor in this one gets a bit more of a sympathetic angle, since we see him getting harassed by the mutants who give him the Vincent van Gogh surprise. 2006, the teenager uses this outhouse that you can smell just by looking at and gets spied on by one of the mutants. Everyone knows that going into this you're gonna get a movie about sadistic cannibals, but come now. Perving on a kid when he's on the bog? That's just nasty. The sympathy factor for this guy goes down when instead of warning them, he deliberately tells the family there's a shortcut, hoping that leading them to their doom will appease the cannibals. Well, you're off my Christmas card list, you hick. The film gives us a reptilicidal indicator that the cannibals in this version went to the Dick Dastardly school of road traps with these retractable spikes. Like any beloved dogs who have a family who take care of all their needs, Beauty and Beast run off into the wilderness as soon as they see an open door. Brenda takes the opportunity to prematurely age her skin by sunbathing in the desert.
Next year, I am going to Cancun with my friends.
Careful now, that sounds like a Taken sequel set in Mexico. And we know what that looks like. It's called Rambo: Last Blood. Just like in the first one, Bobby finds one of the dogs gutted, followed by him tripping and falling unconscious. This is where the film starts doing more things differently than the original. Up until now, the script has followed the original closely to the point of using some of the same dialogue. The first cannibal we see is a little girl who thinks it's a good idea to wear a hoodie in the desert, which makes this mutant laugh at her for looking like E.T. Actually, does E.T. ever wear Elliot's red hoodie in the film? It's been a while since I've watched E.T., but I don't remember him wearing anything red. I think that was only used in some of the merchandise. Doug finds a whole bunch of automobiles gathered in one valley. From this, only one dreadful thing can be inferred. The cannibals are having a monster truck rally. The opening explains that the cannibals in this version are mutants who have been deformed by nuclear testing. Only people as warped as they would find monster trucks the highest form of entertainment. What a piece of luck. No need to spend money on Christmas gifts now. Score! Big Bob finds his way back to the petrol station and isn't even weirded out by the bloody deer surprise. That's not too shocking though, I've seen worse things in styrofoam boxes from takeaways. Sure, he gets his gun out when he sees it, but I get the impression that that's his reaction to a lot of things. He then discovers a collage of photos and newspaper clippings hung up on the wall that reveal to him the backstory of this area and that there are murderous mutants about. This poses the question of why does the petrol station owner put these up? Either he likes the thrill of his secret being discovered, or he's trying to put together his own fucked up game of Guess Who. Huge Rob then finds the guy sobbing in the outhouse like me after gorging on KFC. Thankfully, he's only sitting there with a gun contemplating taking his own life, otherwise that would have been awkward.
I did the best I could. I'm sorry.
Large Robert then gets assaulted in his own car and gets carted off through the mutants' underground tunnel. It's home to Mercury go. In a surprising turn, the young mutant has been keeping watch over Bobby while he's down and out. Fortunately, she scarpers off when his sisters come looking for him, which is for the best. Nobody wants to see this turn into a Pocahontas story. Imagine what that would look like. Just like in the original, the bald mutant pervs on one of them while sleeping, giving us insight into the nature of foster care in Yorkshire. Because they had more of a budget, their versions of gigantic Roberto being burned and the pet bird being eaten looked much gnarlier. Gary Busey over here even pours its blood into his mouth like he's filming a commercial.
Tango just for that.
He steals a hat as well. Do you think when the family were distracted, this mutant went through a montage where he tried on several of their clothes, which his friend would respond to with approving and disapproving looks? When one of the mutants tries to snuggle with Brenda, the other mutant doesn't just stop him, he goes Goodfellas on him with a pistol whipping. There's no need to let an attempted assault of the sexual variety cancel a pillow fight! Since this is 2006, wouldn't they have called this surprise butt sex? They also give Lynn the same experience you get hiring a Greek nanny.
Fat and juicy.
Doug ventures into the abandoned mine, and I like the detail of there being makeshift tombstones for the graves of the miners. It feels like an extra piece of the puzzle. Brenda lights a fire by torching a tire. Never mind the mutants, heaven help her if the Environmental Protection Agency find out she's done that. Doug finds where the mutants live, and it's a creepy shanty town decayed by time. This is a great way that the remake differs from the original. I like the fucked up designs of the mutants where they look severely twisted by radiation. Doug comes across the big brain of this here operation, and I mean that literally. His brain is the biggest. I bet he knows all the numbers. I'd like to thank the Hills of Eyes for showing me the horrors that would have awaited me if I had taken that nursing home job.
You made us what we've become.
When Big Brain tells Doug the backstory of nuclear testing creating mutants who were left in the dust, it expands on the themes of urban versus rural that the original had, so I can get my fix of social commentary spliced with a movie about people running around killing each other. I like the character arc Doug goes through, where he goes from not liking guns to having to resort to violence to survive. You might call this American flag on the nose, I call it through the neck. Bobby gets worried and scouts for Doug, only to come across an actor who's taking his rejection from playing Denethor in The Lord of the Rings a little sorely. At the climax, the little mutant girl sacrifices herself to save the normies. I guess it was only humane. When Ruby left the cannibals in the first The Hills Have Eyes, all she needed to do was fix her teeth and get elocution lessons. Imagine if this little mutant went back to civilization with the Carters. The other kids would call her Tumor Cheeks, Chromosome Collector, Wendy One Syllable, and mock her their ability to read and do simple multiplication. The survivors are reunited and it looks like they're safe. But wait, they're still being watched. That's right, they're still in danger because Team Rocket is spying on them. Any animal that can fight off that many assailants has to be an extra strong Pokemon they can steal for Giovanni. We might as well move on to The Hills of Eyes 2, which I remember seeing the poster for when it came out. If only the film itself was as memorable as its poster and trailer. It opens where Disney security takes trespassers. Since the last film, the army has been out hunting the mutants, which is better than the other Hills of Eyes 2, where the authorities did bugger all about a clan of murderers operating right under their noses. Unfortunately for society, these trained soldiers get picked off by the remaining inbred low IQ savages. It's Afghanistan all over again. Speaking of Afghanistan, it's a late 2000s horror film, so it has to say something about the war on terror.
You against the war, Doonesbury?
Not all war, Sarge. I just think that the president lies too much.
All presidents lie, asshole. That's their fucking job.
I'll give the sergeant credit for having more honest political views than late night comedians. A squad is sent over for a search and rescue mission and fall for the same shiny mirror trick from the other Hills Have Eyes 2. Talk about a callback. You might want to reference the original Hills Have Eyes, but do you have the balls to reference the dogshit sequel nobody likes or even remembers? One of the soldiers pulls an obscure Xbox game and gets grabbed by the ghoulies. How did that even happen? Did he tunnel underneath it like Bugs Bunny just to unnecessarily molest someone? Was it pulling a 2010s YouTube prank? Well, no, it was actually one of the men who got attacked earlier, and instead of killing him, they left him in a portable toilet to slowly die of infections. That wouldn't have been so bad if he was into that sort of thing. Get this, the mutants outfoxed the soldiers and tricked them into shooting their own sergeant. In all the other Hills Have Eyes, I had an easier time believing the mutants were a threat because they were up against stranded civilians. This time around, they want us to think that mentally challenged marauders are a match for a team of soldiers with military equipment. Though this is offset by how they're shown failing a simulation early on, even the chumps from the 80s Hills Have Eyes 2 would have been A-okay if they all had rifles. Even the blind one. They find the colonel from the Search and Destroy mission whose operation got taken out by mutants. How do those mutants overpower a military unit? How strong can a horde of malformed cave dwellers be? Do they have gyms? They score their first W and get the drop on an assailant, but when one of them goes off to relieve herself, she finds the real mastermind behind it all. That's right, Clayface. Her compadres try to track her down and find a clue by her phone, and that's a 2000s phone. They could have dropped that from the tallest peak and it wouldn't have had a scratch on it. This numbnuts hasn't got the memo that breaking away from the group is the last thing any of them should or will do, and another one bites the dust. Once they go deep enough down the mines, they meet a friendly mutant who speaks fluent caveman and wants to help them out for no apparent reason.
No fear. You come. Follow me.
This is looking like a spiritual sequel to the Goonies. The soldier who never stops yelling finds some dynamite and accidentally triggers an explosion. These people are unluckier than most soldiers in the XCOM Terror from the Deep missions I used to stream. They find their missing comrade and beat to death the mutant who's been putting a baby in her. Ugh. They fight him in a sequence so graphic it feels risky to show most of it. I'll give this film credit, it doesn't hold back on the graphic violence and subject matter. The survivors trudge on out of the mine and just like the last time, the final shot shows they're still being watched. Only this time by a mutant using military surveillance technology. Are these mutants the next step in human evolution or something? A lot of people still hadn't figured out how to attach a document to an email in 2007. I remember uploading a YouTube video for the first time in 2011 and my grandmother was worried I might get in trouble with the CIA because she thought I might accidentally hack into it. Through YouTube. One thing I'm glad they added is this song by Loudline that plays during the credits. It's clearly a homage to rock songs made for horror movies from the 80s like Alice Cooper's He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask for Friday the 13th Part 6, and Doc Hend's Dream Warriors for Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It even has the guitar solo and everything. But wait, there's more, because to accompany the last movie there was a tie-in graphic novel called The Hills of Eyes The Beginning, which I think tells a better story than The Hills of Eyes 2. The whole comic has a dusty brown colour palette that matches the setting and tone, and just like the films, it doesn't relent. It tells the story of how the mutants came to be and how they got that way. It even tells you how the petrol station guy got roped in with them. They kill Doug and Beast though. That's a downer. I know it's implied that they're not out of danger yet at the end of the film, but I'd rather have not known for sure if they got back home. It felt satisfying finally getting around to watching these films that I've known about for so long and remember being advertised as a kid when I was too young to watch it. Are there any horror films you remember that way? If so, tell me, I'm curious. It's interesting hearing about how horror media affected us when we were children.
And a one long red nail that shoots from her toe is tickling my blood and shifting its flow.